Hello everybody, it's Doc Quick here with another pro game review. Thank you for tuning in. I have my little guy set up in the corner watching with us, so let's go. We're gonna start as always with some draft analysis. These drafts are actually pretty interesting because they both have a solo carry win condition, potentially. It is the Twisted Fate versus the Camille. Both are capable of taking down the base on their own. But I think Camille wins the side lane in the late game, in a 1v1. I think. I'm not sure, but I think so. It means if JDG want to play for a solo carry win condition, they have to take Camille out of the game consistently. So that needs to be their game plan if they want Twisted Fate to be the solo carry. If they don't want to take Camille out of the game the whole time, they have to play as a team fight comp, meaning their win condition will automatically be Baron to get the Nexus down. Now the problem there will still be, they will still have to deal with Camille, even if they don't want to take her out of the game completely. Camille is still going to be splitting in bot lane if they want to do Baron. So they still need a lot of control in that top side of the map, so that even if Camille splits, they have enough vision and enough control to do the Baron fast enough so they can use the Baron recall to get back in base before an inhibitor gets broken. So Gen G has a solo carry win condition every time, meaning they don't need to fight necessarily in the early game. Camille will also auto win the matchup in the laning phase, meaning the rest of the team can actually play the early game just to pressure enough so Camille doesn't get bothered by anybody. Doesn't get bothered by Twisted Fate, Ultimate, Trundle ganks, roams from bot lane, I don't know. If Camille just gets left alone, she gets into the game early enough so that she can split, because nobody can beat her in the side lane. So what Gen G actually want to do, they want to focus on keeping Trundle out of the game so that he cannot gank Camille. Or so that he cannot gank Twisted Fate, who can then gank Camille. If they can get Trundle out of the game, that's a win for them. So for JDG, it's getting Camille out of the game. For Gen G, it's getting Trundle out of the game. So we're gonna start the game off here with this first invade by JDG. And it does seem like it's pretty smart. You want to give the Yuumi a free laning phase. In my opinion though, this already goes against the game plan, because Gen G really doesn't care that much about bot lane. This just gives Camille a free laning phase, which they are happy with. Because if Camille can just... She doesn't even need to get ahead. The point is JDG needs to get her behind. And this is doing the exact opposite of that. Because this just gets Camille into the game perfectly fine. It's not like she's gonna immediately start smashing Ornn or anything. But she should be kept out of the game. And this does the opposite. So Gen G is not too worried about this vertical jungling. They kinda like it. So the first gank that is coming in is actually into mid lane, where Trundle will appear very soon, which I guess like the execution is kind of off, because if this Trundle pillar just hit, that's a dead Azir, and I suppose that's always a good thing. About the plan though, do you want to gank this Azir? I guess you want to get Twisted Fate ahead. Maybe that's enough. I really do like the answer from Clit though, even though the execution is off there as well. Because you want to keep Trundle out of the game, so you want to counter him. This is a perfect counter, even though Trundle lives and Twisted Fate dies. I think the idea there is definitely good. For Trundle ganking mid lane in the first place though, I'm not sure. I would consider, because of the early invade they did, that Twisted Fate is not going to be the solo carry win condition. It's going to be a team fight win condition. And in that case, Azir versus Twisted Fate is a handshaking matchup. They are both just scaling mages that can side lane and can team fight. So at that point you don't really care about getting either of them ahead necessarily. You want to focus mainly on the matchups that are different. So for example, the tank versus carry matchup in top lane. If you get the tank ahead, then the carry cannot play for the first 10 minutes of the game. It's just unplayable. So I'm not sure. I think I prefer to not gank handshaking matchups. But like I said, if the execution was any better, that would have been a dead Azir. And then Kindred would have also not had an answer. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure yet. The next thing we're going to be looking at is, I think, an attempted dragon by Gen G that they end up backing off of. Not exactly sure what happened. I didn't watch this game as much as I did the last one. So it's definitely Clit on the side of the map that has the objective, even though they don't really care too much about the objective. They don't really care if JDG gets this one. But it's still good to be on the correct side. So I think junglers are gonna meet each other here. Or not even, like, this is the thing I'm talking about, like Clit, he sees Trundle, he sees JDG want to go for dragon, he doesn't care. Couldn't care less about this dragon, because it's not their win condition to team fight. Dragon is a team fighting objective, they don't want a team fight, they don't care about it. Because their win condition is Camille, who was given a free lane from the start. So everything is still going fine for Gen G. So the next thing we're gonna see is Camille has a lot of prio in this lane. And we're gonna use that to walk into the river. Clit is doing some counter jungling to trade for the dragon, and I guess to keep the vertical jungling alive. And we're gonna see this move into the river by Camille. Nothing ends up happening, but I sort of read this as they are looking for Trundle, which I think is the correct thing to do, because you want to keep Trundle out of the game. And if you can use your win condition to kill their win condition, that's just like killing two birds with one stone, I believe they say. So it's a smart move, even though nothing happens. I just kind of wanted to point that out. Use the differences in matchups you have. So the most different matchups are Ornn versus Camille and Trundle versus Kindred. Like Azir and Twisted Fate are basically the same. Two AD carries are basically the same. The supports are different as well, so you might focus on those as well. But if you focus on the matchups that are different and get them ahead or behind, that's how you work towards your win condition very effectively, because you don't need to gank the handshaking matchups. A mage that is going to be slightly weaker than a different mage doesn't make a huge difference. He needs to be like way weaker before that really makes a considerable difference. So yeah, at this point, Gen G are just happy with how the game is going, I would say. And the next thing we're gonna take a look at is Rift Herald. Now Rift Herald is an interesting objective, because you could argue that Gen G want it so that they can make one lane way longer by taking the first turret down. And getting Camille in a really long side lane is definitely a good position to be in. On the other hand, if JDG end up taking Herald, and making one of the side lanes longer, they don't even really care about it, because you can still put Camille in there and she will still have an advantage from that long lane because she wasn't put behind. So if it's Ornn and Camille on your side of the map as Genji, that's still fine. So a move is being made towards Rift Herald anyway, because you might as well be the one who takes the first turret, so you might as well take that objective if you can. But I think this one as well they're gonna back off of, and Loken and Lu Mao make a really interesting roam here. This is a really funny roam to me, because I think they know Nautilus is there from the start, and they just run up from bot lane through the river all the way up to an objective instead of just killing Ruler, which I think, or even pressuring Ruler would have been better. Like, this is what you do. Ruler does it right. You don't respect stupid roams. And I think this is what the LCK was always known for. Just the enemy does something and they just say, you're stupid for trying this. We are smarter and we just don't respect your roams. Kind of reminds me of teams that would over-prioritize killing Faker the whole time, and he would go 0-6 and then win the game because the enemy literally didn't do anything else. This is a similar example. You have your enemy bot lane roaming up all the way for no reason. You just take 3 plates. So the next thing we're gonna see is this invade by the Trundle. A lot of respect paid here the whole time by Genji, because I guess Genji kind of feel that they outscale anyway, so they can just play towards their win condition. However, they do manage to catch the Trundle, who was invading without prio. I guess he thought he didn't get spotted because he didn't check the 2020 brush, and I think there was a ward in there. So that's a dead Trundle. That's very unfortunate for him. But I think as he gets back on the map, he also loses a dragon for it. Yeah, so that's a free dragon to Genji. Again, not really something they would particularly want unless it was free, but it was made free by them catching Trundle. So free dragon, you take those. So I think there actually was no ward in there. So it was just honestly really smart move by Klid, realizing he was standing still there. Very short window to catch him as well. I think the next thing we're gonna see is Trundle using the Herald in bot lane. Which I'm not sure how I feel about that. Because in my opinion, still all the pressure needs to go towards top lane to get Camille behind. And to sort of force that long lane in top lane, then JDG would rotate their dual lane towards mid. And then with the Twisted Fate ultimate, and the pressure from mid lane to avoid any Genji roams, they could punish Camille if she was in a really long lane in top side. So I don't think creating a long lane in bot side is necessarily the best idea, since it's not as obvious for Camille to go into this long lane. It would be easier to put Camille in a safe position. So that's a lot of thinking about stuff that absolutely did not happen. I guess in the end they just take some plate gold, and there's really nothing to it. But I think putting that Herald in top lane makes more sense in this case. There has been absolutely no focus on getting Camille out of the game, nor has there been any focus on getting control on the top side, which JDG should start doing at this point, because Baron is going to be their win condition. They aren't playing for a TF solo carry win condition. So yeah, not a fan of that Rift Herald in bot lane. The next thing we're gonna see is a fight. And you do have to note that I think Ornn has an item advantage because he's Ornn, and Camille hasn't based yet before this fight. So Camille will actually enter the fight with an item disadvantage, which doesn't end up hurting them. So let's look at the reason why they fight, because the fight is going to be in bot lane. And I guess JDG wants to fight to get the long lane, because they actually want the long lane for Camille to start smashing Ornn in. Because Ornn, unless he gets ganked, I guess they can barely kill Camille at this point still with Ornn and Trundle. But I think this is the right call for JDG. They want to make this lane longer. So this is going to be a big fight. With Camille at an item disadvantage, but they still win the fight mostly. And as the fight ends, we go into a pause, I do believe. But we can just cut that out, so that's no problem there. So as we get back to live, we're gonna see a rotation, which is a little bit awkward, because by this point JDG would have wanted the bot lane to be really long already, so they can put Camille in there. And I think that's actually what JDG expected JDG to think. Like, I expect them to think that JDG would already consider that bot lane turret down because it's so low. So JDG would expect them to already send Camille towards bot lane. But JDG isn't really skipping any steps, so they still send Ruler towards bot lane, which is pretty interesting to me, because to be honest, I would have already expected Ruler to be top lane and Rascal and Camille to be bot lane. And I would have also said, just ignore that turret, it's gonna go down to a few Camille basic attacks anyway. It's not what they end up doing, which is pretty interesting, honestly. But even more interesting is that Ornn didn't go bot at all. I think he was kind of confused or something. That's definitely a mistake, and gives up the turret for free. So even if you expected Camille to go bot lane, then you still match with the Ornn. That's kind of the point. But now nobody matches Ruler, and he takes the turret anyway. So now Camille has that long lane on the next rotation. Truth be told, Ruler does overpush here. I don't really know what the communication would have been here. Maybe they are telling each other, like, we can actually win this fight easily with the Azir teleport. I'm not sure, because this is overpushing, even though it goes right. There was no real reason for Ruler to be that far up with his Nautilus and his Kindred backing. But he does get the Azir teleport, and he does get a double kill. Which is a good play, but a bad idea, is how I would classify that, I guess. Anyway, they now have the long lane for Camille. I don't actually think they're gonna put Camille in there immediately. Or at least they're gonna rotate back and forth quite a bit. I'm not sure why, because I feel at this point, this is basically the point in the game where JDG, like in a minute or so, they want to start their Baron setup. They want to start pressuring that mid lane turret to get the vision in the red side jungle. So you can just keep Camille bot, because Camille is unstoppable from this point. I think Camille's gonna go base and actually buy the Ravenous Hydra. I'm pretty sure that is at this point. But I think when we get out of the replay, Camille's already back in top, and I think they send a Azir bot from now on. So we see the picture in picture. It's a little bit small. I can't really see what's going on. So yeah, Azir is top right now, and they go for a fight. They win it. Not sure what the goal is. I think my theory here is that Camille sees, like Rascal sees, he basically has time because Ornn isn't pushing fast enough. So he has nothing better to do. In my opinion, you could still stay in bot lane and just push anyway, because you also win against Ornn. I think he just thought this was a better way to spend his time. That's gonna be my theory. And I guess he may be correct. I prefer definitely to always just push a lane if you're an unstoppable split pusher, but I guess he's not wrong in what he's doing, because he even gets back on time in bot lane to not lose anything, and he did gain something in the meantime, being 3 kills. So I think as we get out of the replay, I'm not sure. I think we're gonna see a rotation, Camille back in top lane and Azir in bot lane. I know that's gonna happen at some point, and I know they switch it back and forth. This is not that point yet. This is still Camille in bot lane. So I like this, because this is the point where JDG want to set up Baron Vision, in my opinion. So you consider Baron Vision to be the current relevant objective, and you get Camille as far away from that objective so that she can win the side lane. That makes sense to me. But it's a bit of an awkward moment, because I think JDG does just want to go for Dragon. So they don't consider Baron Vision the current relevant objective, which means they end up teleporting Camille from bot lane into a bot lane fight, which is really awkward. And I'm not sure you want to take this fight. I suppose they are really far ahead, and that's why they take it. But do you really want to take that fight? Because once again, I'm more in favor of pushing. So in this case, if you would have predicted that the current objective that JDG would go for is that dragon, that wasn't even there yet. If you would have predicted that and you would have put Camille in top lane, I would even argue you could teleport Camille to top lane as that fight starts, but I suppose there's a chance that the 4v5 just goes horribly wrong, which would make it definitely the wrong decision. Yeah, it's a shame in these replays we cannot see the lane states of the other lanes. But yeah, this is questionable for me. I think Gen G just takes that fight because they are ahead. Because this is not really something that they want to fight for specifically. They are not really fighting for an objective at this point. Or not one they are particularly interested in. So again we see Camille is in bot lane now. As far away from the Baron as possible, which is definitely good. Then moves up for some reason. I don't like that. Don't really understand why either. I don't really have an answer there. Because JDG is doing what they need to be doing at this point. They are getting that vision in the enemy red buff jungle, which is what they want to do. But I think you don't need to bring Camille up to prevent that. I think you can just have Camille kill Ornn to punish that. Maybe Camille is not strong enough at this point yet. Maybe Camille needs the 2 items. I was way off with remembering where the Ravenous Hydra comes in. So maybe that's why they want to group with the Camille. Still, it's another questionable one for me. I think you can stay in the side lane way earlier than JDG apparently thought. And they may just be right. I'm not sure on this one. I'm really not sure. This is gonna be the most of the review from here on. I'm not sure about anything anymore. I guess in my opinion, JDG shouldn't be this far ahead and shouldn't have won all these fights that I said they shouldn't be taking. But because they won the first one, they also won the second one and then the third one. So yeah, now Azir is in bot lane. This is the point I was talking about. And I have two theories on why they do this. Because in my opinion, it should be Camille in bot side, because I think Camille still takes turrets faster than Azir does. Even though Azir is insanely fat. That's actually the first theory. Maybe they think Azir is so insanely fat that he is the primary split pusher and he should be placed as far away from the objective as possible. The second thing is that maybe they don't consider Baron the relevant objective at this point. Maybe they think the unspawned Dragon Soul is more relevant, which means you put Camille as far away from that objective as possible. Which means you put Camille in the top lane. That could also be what they are thinking. Has to be one of those things, in my opinion. So the next thing we're going to be looking at is a whole lot of lane assignments that lead up to a dragon. And I'm pretty sure Camille and Azir actually switch a couple more times. I may be wrong on that one. Like I said, I haven't watched this game as many times as some of the other reviews that I typically do. But yeah, at this point it seems like JDG is completely lost. They seem to have no idea how to get back in. And the next objective they want to be focusing is definitely the mid lane turret. That's what they want to do. They want to take the mid lane turret, then get that vision down in the red buff jungle, then get Baron control. They're not really making any proactive moves towards getting that mid lane turret. I think at this point you can just put Ornn in mid lane, put everybody mid lane, just ARAM that turret down. And Ornn, I think if he moves up now, there's no enemy wave in bot lane anyway, there's no split push danger. You could ARAM this turret down, and that would be the correct way, because that's the objective you want. You want to be able to take that mid lane turret, that vision, and then that Baron. But here we go. This is JDG playing for Dragon Soul, which is the objective they, in my opinion, don't really need, because they don't have a team fight win condition, even though they have been winning every team fight, which is kind of funny. In my opinion, it's because Camille wasn't put behind at all, which means like Camille shouldn't be able to team fight this early. Shouldn't be able to have any pressure in team fights. I think JDG won those team fights because Camille was not behind. Camille should have been behind, and Trundle should have been more ahead. And I think JDG should have combined those two plans. Just get Trundle ahead by putting Camille behind. They tried to do the exact opposite, like put Trundle ahead by, I guess, getting bot lane behind, which also didn't work. Anyway, Dragon Soul now goes to JDG, and we see the lane matchup that I really like, or the lane assignment I should say, because Camille is finally in bot lane, because now with Dragon Soul being down, definitely the relevant objective is Baron. That's the only one that's really left. Meaning Camille should be as far away from that as possible, and I think they're immediately gonna punish this by starting starting the Baron, which forces the Twisted Fate, or no, the Ornn teleport in this case. And then the Twisted Fate teleport as well. They actually force both teleports. And then Camille can just go back to split pushing. So this is just standard League of Legends, the way it was played in the olden days. One split pusher, the rest is on Baron. And JDG are forced to make a choice, and there isn't one set correct choice anymore, because Camille is too strong. And I guess so is Azir, because he's 7-1. So for Gen G, they just forced the 2 teleports. They can now just rinse and repeat this. They have this game in full control. And I think on the next Baron attempt, they actually just get it. So as we are going through this replay, we see both teleports are being forced. That's step 1. Camille didn't even need to base there and could just keep pushing. Now step 2 is just actually getting the Baron. So I think Camille is going to wander through the jungle for a little bit, get some gold. While the rest of Gen G make a setup for Baron first, and then when Camille has the pressure, they're gonna start it. I think they might even start it a little bit early. Not sure if I remember correctly. So Camille is hitting the lane right now, meaning the choice will be forced for JDG. As Camille starts pushing, they have to make a choice now. And they could just engage this fight, in my opinion. Azir is not there, Camille is not there. For some reason they don't dare to fight. I guess Azir was too close, but they need to do something, in my opinion. Just engage there. Try to one-shot ruler. So yeah, it's a little bit weird to me that Camille is grouping. In my opinion, you should just stay in bot lane as your team starts Baron, just like last time. You don't want to group. And it seems 3rd time's the charm, that's what they're doing now. Camille fully in the side lane. JDG nowhere to be found. And this is how you get Baron. And the Baron play afterwards, when I was first watching this, I said to myself, reset as a team, get some items, then set up the waves. But Gen G actually considered the waves good enough, so they just go for it. And this is honestly pretty beautiful. What's happening next? This is how you use Baron. You go to your lanes. You don't do anything other than going to your lanes. So I actually find Life's positioning a bit questionable. I don't even think you need to walk into the jungle. I actually think that may have complicated things if there was some desperate engage onto ruler and he wasn't there. Because in my opinion you need to only be in the lanes at this point. You should be able to know that Ornn doesn't have teleport. So he cannot flank. And Ornn was on vision as well against the Camille. So I don't think Life should have walked into the jungle. Apart from that, they just take everything. And then the desperate engage comes when it's definitely too late. When there's absolutely no chance. And then JDG just lose. So in my opinion, JDG lost because they had a wrong understanding of the game plan. They did not put that Camille behind and they did not get their Trundle ahead. And then they just got sort of run out of the game. So that's gonna be my review for this game. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you guys next time.